Ever wonder why it seems like a good number of folks in their golden years start to decline once they've hit that 8-0 mark? Even the ones who were sharp as a tack and doing just fine a little while back often seem to lose their get up and go. Now, the common wisdom is that what goes down after 80 is all about your DNA or just plain dumb luck, but that's not the whole picture by a long shot. In this video, we're going to unpack 5 surprising reasons, things you might not have given much thought to, that shed light on why many older adults have a tough time living a long or healthy life once they're past that 80-year milestone. We're not talking about the usual suspects like what you eat, puffing on cigarettes, or getting your exercise in. These are deeper, more subtle things that often fly under the radar, even for people who've mostly played by the rules. But here's the silver lining. Once you're clued in on these reasons, you can actually do something about them. So if you've ever scratched your head about what really throws a wrench in the works when it comes to living a long life after 80 and how to safeguard yourself while you still have time on your hands, stick around until the end of this video. These 5 unexpected factors might just help you change the way you age before it's too late in the game. Let's jump right in. Number 1, the quiet vanishing act of everyday social nudges. One of the primary and often overlooked reasons why a lot of older individuals don't live a long life after 80 is the subtle fading away of what the experts call microsocial engagement. We're not talking about your deep-seated friendships or big family shindigs. Those still carry weight, no doubt. But more about those small, seemingly run-of-the-mill interactions that used to pepper your daily life without you even batting an eye. Think back to how often you'd shoot the breeze with the mail carrier, crack a quick joke with the checkout person at the grocery store, or give a nod to the neighbor walking their pooch down the street. Those little moments of connection weren't just pleasantries. They were actually regulating your nervous system, beefing up your sense of belonging, and keeping your brain's social wiring sharp and in the game. But once folks hit their 80s, a lot of them stop hitting the store themselves, opting for online orders or asking family for a hand. They might stop chatting with strangers because their hearing isn't what it used to be, or they might just stop stepping outside because the weather's a bit nippy or their knees aren't feeling too steady. And when those small social touch points start to disappear, so does something else, their zest for life. What's a real eye-opener is that most folks don't even clock that it's happening. They figure they're just simplifying things, but what they're really doing is cutting out those low-level social interactions that give your brain a little jolt, lift your spirits, and signal to your body that they're still part of the hustle and bustle of everyday life. It doesn't have to be rocket science. I've known guys in their 80s who stayed on the ball simply because they'd mosey on down to the same coffee joint every morning, say hey to the same crew, and nod to the same 3 folks hanging out on the corner. That 5-minute stretch of human connection wasn't just routine. It was like their lifeline. It gave their day shape. It kept them feeling like they had something to answer to, and it made them feel seen. And there's a biological price to pay when this fades away. The brain reacts to loneliness, both the deep-seated kind and the subtle kind, like it's under stress. It messes with your hormones, cranks up inflammation, and weakens your immune system. But the biggie is, it starts to shrink the networks in your brain that handle memory, attention, and keeping your emotions in check. Plain and simple, it makes you feel older, faster. So, if you've found yourself not talking as much to people during the day, or if you've just stopped running those little errands, stopped striking up casual conversations, or started feeling invisible in your neck of the woods, it's time to flip that script. Because those moments of connection, even the ones that seem forgettable, are quietly telling your brain and your body that you still matter, you're still part of the deal, and that message is one of the most potent medicines for sticking around, not just in years, but in spirit. Number 2, overdoing the caution act. Another sneaky reason why a lot of folks don't make it too far past 80 is something that sounds like a smart move on the surface, being careful. But there's a fine line between being cautious and going overboard with it. And once you cross that line, the consequences usually don't hit you right away, but they always pile up over time. It often kicks off with good intentions. Maybe you took a tumble on the stairs once or nearly lost your footing on the sidewalk. So you decide to dial back the outdoor walks. You stop bending down to grab stuff from low shelves or climbing into the back seat of the car. You park yourself in a chair more and you stay put longer. People around you applaud your prudence. Don't push it, they say. Take it easy. And before you know it, you've carved out a life that's safe, but still is a statue. But here's the kicker that nobody really talks about. When movement grinds to a halt, so does strength. And not just in your legs or arms, but in your coordination, your balance, your inner stability. Your body ain't like a machine that just needs rest to stay in top shape. It's more like a garden that needs tending. And when activity dwindles to a trickle, things don't just stay the same, they go downhill. One of the first places it shows up is in your core. Most folks don't realize how crucial those deep trunk muscles are for everything. Standing up straight, walking around, lifting things, even just getting out of a chair. If those muscles go unused, even for a few weeks, they shrink. And when they shrink, your balance goes haywire, you start to wobble, and the whole thing snowballs. I knew a fella named Walter, 82, who hung up his evening walks after he slipped once on a rainy day. No broken bones, just a scare. But that scare was enough. He went from hoofing it a mile every evening to parking himself in front of the TV most nights. Within 6 months, he'd shed 10 pounds of muscle. His legs felt like jelly, and his doctor gave him the lowdown. But the damage was already done. Walter didn't stop because he was weak. He got weak because he stopped. Now, I'm not saying you should throw caution to the wind when there's a real risk. There are smart ways to play it safe, using handrails, wearing sturdy shoes, clearing your walkways, even using a cane if it helps. But there's a world of difference between managing risk and just throwing in the towel. When fear calls the shots on your movements, your body starts to forget how to move at all. So, if you've noticed you're doing less, not because your body's saying no, but because you're spooked about what might happen, pay attention to that. Ask yourself, am I looking out for myself, or am I slowly fading away? Because sticking around after 80 isn't just about avoiding falls, it's about keeping on the move, even if you gotta do it more carefully, more slowly, more deliberately. Movement is how your body remembers it's still needed. It's how your systems stay online, how your brain stays sharp, and how your heart keeps pumping with purpose. And if you're still tuned in and finding these insights helpful, drop a number 2 in the comments below to let me know you're with me. And if you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, I highly recommend you do, and ring that bell so you don't miss out on any videos. Your support helps us keep the good stuff coming to inform and inspire you. All right, let's keep rolling. Number 3, sleep cycles gone. Haywire from messed up light exposure. There's a silent clock ticking inside your body that doesn't make a sound, but it pretty much runs the whole show. Your mood, your metabolism, your immune system, even how your brain patches itself up at night. And once you're past 80, this internal clock, your circadian rhythm, gets extra sensitive. One of the biggest culprits for throwing it off its game, not soaking up enough daylight and getting too much artificial light at night. You might not notice it right off the bat. Maybe you've started dozing off a bit more during the day, nodding off in the afternoon sun. Or maybe you've stopped getting outside regularly, especially when the weather turns chilly. You might flip on the TV in the evening or leave the lights blazing late while you're reading or watching a movie. Each of these little changes might seem harmless on their own, but put them together and they quietly confuse your body about when it's supposed to be wide awake and when it's supposed to be catching some Z's. Your body relies on natural light to stay in sync. Bright morning light tells your brain it's time to wake up, get moving, and send energy where it's needed. And darkness at night signals the release of melatonin, that gentle hormone that gets you ready for some deep, restorative sleep. But when your eyes aren't getting enough of that natural daytime light, or when your evenings are filled with the artificial glow from screens or lamps, your internal signals get all scrambled. The result? You might find it tougher to fall asleep or stay asleep. You might wake up feeling groggy even after logging 8 hours in bed. You might notice your energy dragging throughout the day, or your memory feeling a little fuzzier than usual. And over time, that messed up sleep affects more than just your energy levels. It weakens your immune system, makes your mood less stable, and even bumps up the risk of cognitive decline. Then there's the vitamin D situation, which your body naturally cooks up when your skin soaks in sunlight. After 80, your body's ability to whip up vitamin D through your skin takes a nosedive, which means regular outdoor exposure becomes even more critical. Without it, your bones, muscles, and immune system all take a hit. I once chatted with a woman named Helen, who was 84 and had been feeling increasingly wiped out and disoriented. Her blood work came back fine, her diet hadn't changed, and she wasn't on any new meds. The turning point? Her doctor simply suggested she spend 20 minutes every morning sitting by the window with the blinds wide open and to power down her screens an hour before bedtime. Within a couple of weeks, her sleep improved, and so did her memory and her mood. It wasn't a new pill, it was light. So, if you've been holed up indoors with the curtains drawn most of the time, or if your evenings are glued to the blue light from your phone or TV, it's time for a switch up. Try to get outside within an hour of waking up, even if it's just for a few minutes on your porch. Let your eyes and skin soak in that morning light. In the evening, dim the lights and let your body get ready to wind down. These gentle rhythms are more than just about comfort. They're about survival. Because what a lot of folks don't get is that the body doesn't just get old from wear and tear, it also gets old from things being out of whack, from systems being out of sync. And getting your light cues, your sleep schedule, your daily rhythms back on track, that's how you bring that order back. That's how you tell your body, even at 85 years young, we're still on schedule, we're still moving, we're still here. Number 4, stuffing down. Emotions from loss and being alone. By the time many people hit their 80s, they've shouldered more loss than most younger folks can even wrap their heads around. A spouse, a sibling, a lifelong buddy, sometimes even a child. And while the outside world might offer a polite, sorry for your loss, what rarely gets acknowledged is just how much those losses pile up, not just in memories, but in the very fabric of your being. What often goes down after 80 isn't just plain grieving, it's emotional suppression. It's the slow, quiet habit of swallowing the pain instead of letting it out, of putting on a brave face because you feel like you should be used to it by now, or because there's nobody left who truly gets the depth of what you've lost. But here's the straight-up truth. Your body doesn't forget. When grief doesn't get processed, when it's not talked about, not shared, not felt all the way through, it doesn't just vanish into thin air. It gets stored, and over time, that emotional baggage becomes physical. It starts messing with your immune system, your digestion, your sleep. It throws your hormones out of whack. It puts your nervous system in a constant state of low-grade tension. And the toughest part? It happens silently. On the outside, you might look calm as can be. You might even say you're doing just fine. But if your shoulders have gotten a little heavier, if your breathing's a bit shallower, if your spark has dimmed just enough that you don't quite feel like yourself anymore, grief might be the culprit, even if you haven't uttered a word about it in years. I remember a gentleman named George, 86, who lost his wife of 60 years. He didn't shed many tears, said it wasn't his style, said he was holding up okay. But within a year, he'd dropped weight, stopped going to the senior center, and started having trouble sleeping. Not because of some illness, but because his body was lugging around sorrow it had never been allowed to release. You see, emotional pain doesn't have to be some big dramatic thing to be damaging. And by the time it shows up in your health, the connection isn't always crystal clear. What keeps people going strong well past 80 often isn't just physical toughness, it's emotional ventilation. It's having safe, open outlets for sadness, for fear, for longing. It's being able to say, I miss her, or I'm still ticked off, or I feel all alone, and not getting judged for it. That kind of letting go is what allows the heart to breathe again. And when the heart can breathe, the body can heal. That's why folks who live long tend to have some kind of outlet. Maybe it's a trusted friend, maybe it's a journal, maybe it's their faith, or a community group, or even a therapist who helps them unpack the stories they've been carrying for decades. Whatever form it takes, the principle's the same. What gets expressed can be transformed. What gets buried festers. So, if you've been holding something in, not because you want to, but because you didn't know where to put it, it's time to make some space, not just for your peace of mind, but for your very life. Because the truth is, the heart can only carry so much before it starts to quietly shut down. And if you want to make it well past 80, not just breathing but truly alive, you gotta let it feel too. If you're still with me and finding these insights valuable, give a shout out with a number 4 in the comments below. And if you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, I highly recommend you do and ring that bell so you don't miss any future videos. Your support helps us keep the good stuff coming to inform and inspire you. Now, let's move on to the final point. Number 5, the gradual erosion of daily purpose. One of the most invisible reasons why a lot of folks don't thrive once they're past 80 is the slow wearing away of something we often take for granted until it's gone: daily purpose. Not some grand philosophical life's mission, but the simple kind, the kind that gets you out of bed in the morning with something to do, somewhere to go, someone to see. Purpose doesn't have to be some big earth-shattering thing. It can be watering the plants before the sun gets too hot. It can be feeding the neighborhood cat that's waiting on your doorstep. It can be writing a letter to your granddaughter or fixing that squeaky hinge on the back gate. But when these little routines start to slip away, when mornings roll around with no real reason to get moving, and evenings arrive without anything much to look back on, something inside starts to quietly shut down. Your body listens to your mind, and when your mind no longer sees a reason to push forward, your body follows suit. Appetite wanes, movement slows down, and without purpose, the systems that used to keep your health in check start to go quiet. Not because they're broken, but because they're waiting for a reason to switch back on. It's easy to miss because it happens bit by bit. Maybe your weekly bridge game got canned. Maybe the church group stopped meeting. Maybe your family visits less often, or your old volunteer gig ended when your knees started acting up. You tell yourself it's normal, just part of getting older, but deep down, you can feel it. The days all starting to blur together, each one quieter than the last. I once met a woman named Ruth, 88, who seemed more alive than most folks half her age. She wasn't rolling in dough, she wasn't in perfect health, and she wasn't surrounded by a huge family. But she had one thing that never left her: routine. Every Monday, she'd jot down postcards to folks who were housebound in her church. Every Thursday, she'd whip up a batch of soup and freeze it for a local shelter. Every day, she'd park herself by her window around 4 p.m. to watch the neighborhood kids walk home from school. She knew their names, she'd wave to them, and they'd wave back. It wasn't glamorous, but it gave her days some texture. It gave her heart a rhythm. It gave her life continuity. And that's the secret nobody really spells out for you. Your body keeps on ticking as long as it believes it's needed. Purpose, even the small stuff, is like fuel. It tells your cells to keep repairing, your organs to keep chugging along, your brain to keep learning. When you lose that sense of relevance, when you feel like your presence doesn't really matter to anyone or anything anymore, that inner spark starts to dim. That's why folks who cruise past 80 with grace and vitality usually have something anchoring their day. It could be a garden, a pet, a journal, a ritual, a phone call, a simple morning prayer. What matters isn't the grandness of it. It's the consistency. It's knowing that when you open your eyes in the morning, there's a reason to get up and go. So if you've been feeling a little adrift, like your days have lost their shape or meaning, don't just brush it off. That's not just feeling a bit down. It's a signal your body's sending out, asking for rhythm again, for structure, for connection, for purpose. Because at the end of the day, sticking around isn't just about your heart doing its thing. It's about your heart wanting to do its thing. And that quiet desire to keep going, to stay connected, to still matter. That's what carries people past 80 and into lives that still feel full. Final thoughts. As we wrap things up here, I want to leave you with a simple but powerful takeaway. Most folks don't just fade away after 80 because of one big event. It's not a diagnosis or a fall or a birthday that suddenly flips the switch. It's the slow, quiet fading of habits, rhythms, and reasons to stay engaged. And a lot of the time, those changes are so subtle, so gradual, that you don't even realize what's happening until something inside feels a little dimmer than it used to. But the good news in all of this is that just like these shifts happen slowly, they can also be turned around slowly. One walk outside, one extra chat with someone at the store, one little stretch in the morning. One thing you do today, not because you have to, but because it brings some structure, connection, or meaning to your day. That's how you start to turn things around. So, think back to those 5 unexpected reasons we talked about. Which one surprised you the most? Which one felt a little too familiar for comfort? And more importantly, which one are you willing to take a little action on, even in a small way, starting today? Because the truth is, you've got more power than you think, not to stop the clock, but to change the way you move through your later years. And if you're willing to stay tuned in to those quiet shifts, if you're willing to guard your routines, protect your sense of purpose, and let yourself feel what needs to be felt, then there's a darn good chance you won't just reach 80. You'll live beyond it fully and deeply on your own terms. Thanks for hanging out with me today. I'd love to hear your thoughts, so drop a comment below and share one thing you took away from this and how you plan to weave it into your life. Your thoughts really matter to us, so don't hesitate to chime in. Reading your comments gives us a real boost and keeps us going. If you dug this video and found it helpful, please hit that like button, subscribe, and share it with others. Your support helps us keep creating good content to inform and inspire you. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.